back to episode 2 of Construction Corner. Today we are joined by Matthew Wilson and Maya Ivanova from WilsonIvanova CPAs. And today we're just going to be hearing from their experiences, a little bit of advice dealing with contractors, and some tips you can take away as well to maybe help your business out. So to start, I think the best way to get this going is how long have you both been in the industry and working alongside contractors?
I personally have been in the industry for over 10 years. I've worked both in the public accounting side and in the private side. I was an interim controller for a whole year with a contractor, so I got to experience it on either side of the fence. Love working with contractors, and we'll continue doing that.
Great.
Well, I've been in the public accounting spotlight for about 25 years. I actually worked with contractors prior to going into accounting. I worked for a lumber yard and worked with them, and that was probably where I generated my interest of working with contractors. Enjoyed what they were doing, the different projects they had, and driving by and seeing something that they were putting together, and their excitement when they would talk about what they were building and the finished product was always exciting to be part of.
Right. Cool. So, with over 30 years combined experience, I'm sure you work with quite a bit of contractors. Around how many would you say you guys typically deal with now, or your client base is?
Our major clients that we work with in the construction industry, probably about 35 to 40 contractors, have been growing over the years as we expand our practice. And construction is a core industry for our practice, so we continue to expand in that area.
Cool.
Different clients that we work with range anywhere from the subcontractors starting in the garage to large general contractors and pretty much everything in between. So we have a wide array of different clients.
The whole spectrum.
Yes.
And what is it about construction per se that you guys really enjoy working with? Is it the people, the industry in general, or what kind of makes you want to stick around in that niche?
I think that what's exciting about construction is it's different. For a lot of CPAs, they do tax returns. To me, a tax return is a required document. There's not a lot of fun in it. It's not real sexy. But when you work with a contractor and they're trying to figure out what it's really going to cost them to build a project, you're able to sit down with them and show them how they're doing and their performance and really understand how they operate their business. The more we talk to them and the more they realize we understand the industry, the more they draw us in and we become part of management. We become one of their people they look to ask questions, whether it's on a project, whether it's a banking issue, whether it's a bonding issue. We're there for them, and that's what makes it exciting. It's not just that once a year document we do. It's an all-year project with our clients.
For me, contractors have a high demand of support throughout the year, so being able to stay in touch with a client throughout the year, whether it's through quarterly financial statement reporting or annual financial statements and tax planning along the way, we're able to build those connections and get a better understanding of their business, so we're able to provide continual support along the way.
Great. So I'm sure the market has been very saturated over the couple years. In your experience, how can you distinguish between an industry expert or just a generalist?
In my experience is usually doing your homework prior to engaging a CPA, going through the due diligence process of asking for references from whether it's your peers of contractors or the banker that you work with or the bonding company. You should ask for somebody that specializes, because having a CPA that specializes in construction is pretty critical for taxation, financial reporting, and just overall financial advisory services.
Okay. And then what would you say the benefits are of working with an expert in the industry versus a friend that could just be that generalist who has different clients in all different industries?
Okay, well, the industry, construction is special, as is manufacturing, as are medical groups. Every industry is different, and generalists don't really understand the intricacies of the specific industry. So as a specialist in construction, we're able to not only provide financial reporting services or tax returns, but we're also able to provide benchmarking, different items that contractors find important so that they can see how they're doing against the industry. And that becomes extremely important if they're on a big project or a tough project, or the economy starts to slow. They need to be able to determine if they're bidding at the proper levels, if their projects are as profitable as they were hoping, what their true overhead costs are, what their office indirect costs are. And we're able to provide that, not only what their numbers are, but what the industry, their particular niche in the industry is. Whether you're an underground pipeline or you're a framer, every industry sector has its own benchmark. And we have those tools available to share.
Okay.
And if I can expand a little bit upon that, for financial reporting, for example, we work with a lot of bonding companies, and we have built a set of financial statements that provides all the information they need when they're working through a bidding process and getting their bonds. So having somebody that's able to report on contractors' financial statements and having a solid work in progress schedule, because that's the life of the contractor, is really important.
How does working with a construction specific CPA benefit and help the bottom line of a company?
So by knowing the industry really well and having a CPA that understands the industry, we're able to provide meaningful information to management, and starting from the estimating, that's kind of step number one in the contractor's process, being able to understand all the direct and indirect cost for a contractor, so they're able to relate that to estimating, and also understanding what their general overhead is and what their office expenses are, so they know what their points are of how much work they need to do in any specific year, and what their break-even analysis looks like. Having a CPA that specializes in construction will be able to provide all that information to management and estimating and the accounting department itself.
In addition to that, because we specialize in the industry, we do a lot of training specifically for the construction industry, and that gives us the ability also to capture what we learn in the field and bring it to our clients and instruct them, whether it's a change in accounting procedures that are coming up, whether it's a taxation idea or a research and development idea. We're able to stay on top of all of the changes that are happening and bring those to our clients in real time to help them make great decisions.
Right. So your practices aren't set. They're always changing and adapting based on that client or the industry or economy.
Our profession as a whole is rapidly changing. And so when you look at the standards, what we report on, generally accepted accounting principles, they're constantly changing, and right now we're going through a huge change with revenue recognition, and next year it's the lease standards. These are two huge changes that will affect contractors and their financial statements and how the banks and the bonding companies look at them. And so we're able to get ahead of when those transitions happen and work with our clients and their bankers and their bonding companies to let them know these are the changes that are going to happen, and this is how it will affect the financial statement, so that way then there's no surprise, no sticker shock when they get their financial statements at the end of the year, and nothing the client did different other than adopt the new standards. It could throw their ability to bank or bond into turmoil because of the changes. So we're very adaptive and ahead of the curve on that.
So with your experience in working with these many contractors, what would you say are some maybe 3 best practices that you've noticed that have really built a successful company around?
I would say that our most successful companies have a few traits that are very common across the board. Number one is their people. And what we mean by their people is it's not just the accounting staff or the project managers or the guys that are in the field, it's communication between all 3. If they have open communication, they're able to know in real time how their jobs are performing, where they are on the jobs, and then they know where they sit from a financial standpoint. So that would be number one. Number 2 would probably be have a great supply chain, make sure that they have good relationships with their suppliers so that they are getting the materials at the best prices possible. Keep that relationship open. Number 3 would be their trusted advisor group. Those people outside the company, their bankers, their bonding companies, their accountants, make sure that they have great relationships with those people,
Yeah.
because those are the people that are going to continue to help them in business. And reach out to those people. Don't just meet with them once a year. Meet with them quarterly or more, wherever you can, to make sure that you have that open relationship and share with them where you are on your projects at all times.
If I can add a fourth best practice,
Yeah.
will be utilizing technology.
Right.
So having the right processes in place, having the real-time information definitely helps contractors. Having a good software that you can rely on, both on the estimating
Yep.
and the accounting side, helps a lot. And another best practice is probably networking, making sure that you're networking with other peers
Right.
in the construction industry and seeing what they're doing better. So possibly joining a trade organization that kind of relates to what you do, to kind of get the experience of other people and not just sit in a box knowing how only your
Yep.
way is.
Get the different perspectives, experiences. Okay. So what can a contractor do to really benchmark their financial performance of the company?
Benchmarking is extremely important, and a lot of contractors don't utilize it. I think that's because they're not shared that information from their outside sources like their CPAs. So if you're a contractor and you're not getting benchmarking, ask your accountant. Usually they have available different programs or reports that they can share with you. For instance, our clients, we run a report for them every year when we do their financial statements that compares them against their industry in real time.
Oh.
And we're able to dial it down based on their NAICS code.
Yep.
And also on their volume size and the region that they're in. So it gives them real-time information on what other contractors in their area are doing. Also, the CFMA is extremely important to join the Construction Financial Management Association, and they have benchmarking tools that are available to their members. And then also reaching out to your banks. Not just your accountants have those tools, the banks have those tools as
Right.
well. And it doesn't hurt to get reports from multiple groups of people, because every report's going to be a little bit different.
Right.
But utilize your outside sources to gather benchmarking information for yourself.
Okay.
In addition, if I can add, knowing what the benchmarks look like, take it a step further and analyze why you're not performing
Right.
possibly as well as the industry. Go a little bit deeper. Are you missing things on the bidding side, or is your labor cost too high, or is your material cost too high? So don't just look at them and get discouraged by the results. Possibly go a step further
Right.
to analyze it.
What causes contractors to have cost overruns on jobs?
When a contractor is bidding a job, there's usually 5 factors that they take into account: labor, materials, subcontractors, equipment rental, and then other miscellaneous costs. For the most part, materials are materials. Where you blow it in a job is in your labor. And so things like having too many guys on the job at one time, not having your materials delivered on time, and you have wasted labor standing around waiting for a delivery. Those are the things that really cost a contractor. In addition to that, not knowing what cost to allocate to their jobs for their equipment rental, for instance. Are they allocating the fuel? Are they allocating the repairs and maintenance to those jobs properly? Those are the types of things that we see. But for the most part, in construction right now, it's the labor overruns that cause jobs to go sideways.
Okay.
And so the key is to make sure you have the right people on the job, and that you don't have them standing around waiting for things to start or stop.
Right. So that whole funnel has to work in sync.
Yes.
Okay.
So in the global prospect, it's more of the management side of it. So it goes back to labor, but having the right management that's executing the contract along the way and making sure that
Right.
everything takes place in the right time.
Okay. How important is it to have timely financial reporting, both from an internal and external factor?
Well, from internal perspective, goes back to the people. So having the competent staff in-house to provide timely reports to management that go back to the communication channels of estimating and project management, having the right software that's able to produce, so you're not utilizing Excel, which is easily to make errors, and
Right.
Providing the right work in progress schedule, maybe by the 10th or the 15th of the month for management to review, so you're able to make adjustments to your projects timely, so you're not waiting and finding out that you're losing a ton of money on a job 3, 4, 5 months later.
Right.
Or you're not waiting for your CPA to tell you that you're losing money on a project 3 months after year end. So from external standpoint, we try to finish probably 90% of our contractors' financial statements by March 31st of the following year. And I know banks and bonding companies consider those stale if they're past that point. So working with somebody externally to make sure you're getting timely financial reporting is really important too.
So the 2008-2007 downturn really affected a ton of companies, but especially construction. In your experience, what did you see were some traits of the companies that were able to weather the storm and kind of, get through that whole scenario?
Yeah, 2007, 2008 was very difficult and actually lasted for several years after that.
Right.
And the contractors that remained strong, a big thing they did is they didn't leverage themselves. They didn't over leverage, buy a lot of equipment, have a lot of debt service. They own their equipment, they take care of their equipment, and they make it last so that they don't have those huge payments when things slow down. Another thing that a lot of guys do is they keep on too much staff for too long.
Right.
And it's an unfortunate aspect of a potential downturn, but the reality is you have to look at your jobs and know what your staffing levels need to be and make those adjustments as quickly as you can so that you don't have that excess labor on the jobs.
Right.
And another thing that we saw a lot of people do that went out of business or came very close to it is they started taking work at really low margins. You got to keep your margins up, make sure you know what your true costs are, and take the work that you can make money on. And also stay within your specialty. Every contractor has a specialty.
Yes.
Even though they may do different types of work, there are definitely some types of work where they make more money than other types of work. They're just better at it, or there's less competition. Focus your energy on the contracts that you know how to do really well and that you can make more money on, and do less work that in areas that are a little more risky or that you don't have as much experience.
Okay. What accounting software would you recommend a construction company use, or maybe a couple that you've seen have worked well with a few of your clients?
That is a tough question. And the reason why that's a tough question is because every software package is good at a few things, but none of them do everything you want. So it really boils down to what the company does and what they're trying to get out of their financial reporting. So we have clients that use Timberline, American Contractor, AccuBuild, Toolbox, QuickBooks, the list goes on and on.
Right.
Foundation is another one that's really popular right now. And again, you have to, before selecting a piece of software, sit back and identify what you're trying to get out of it, because if you're an underground pipeline guy, one type of software is going to work better for you than if you're a framer or a general contractor.
Sure.
So they're all different. And again, they all have their unique pluses and minuses. It's really a matter of sitting down and identifying what fits best for your needs.
Okay.
And also, along with the software, you need to make sure that you have the competent staff to work through the software.
Right.
So sometimes those are the biggest challenges when you don't invest enough time in training your staff on the software, or don't have a competent accounting staff that's able to navigate through it and get the reports that you need. Those are some of the struggles that we've seen some companies have in the past.
In addition to selecting software, Maya was stating that you have to have competent staff to handle the software.
Right.
And we see a lot of companies, they don't invest in their people and train their people enough, and they think they'll replace those skills with the capabilities that software handle, and that's just a Band-Aid. And sometimes that creates bigger issues because the software can only do so much. If you don't have the competent staff that are trained to run the software, no technology is going to fix that.
Okay.